Okay, and we are back. Thank you for those of you that have stayed. We're going to go ahead and take a look at Integrated Math 1, Semester B, Unit 7. And like I said, this activity requires an online tool called GeoGebra. So I will go through that demonstration step by step. I'm going to try something. I'm going to unmute everyone and give you the option to unmute yourself if you have a question through this demonstration. I want it to be a little more interactive than the first hour. So I'm going to unmute everyone.
Because we need to eliminate Sid.
And then I will mute all,
so to do that,
allow
you
you
need
to unmute yourself.
all the stuff to pick up.
Okay, so if you have a question, please feel free to ask.
I just had other questions I'm typing on the chat, but we're going to address those later, right? You want to focus on this Unit 7 activity right now?
Yes, that is correct. And who am I speaking with?
It's Tim.
Tim. Okay, thank you, Tim. Yeah, definitely. We'll have the Q&A session after this. Okay, so I'm going to focus on Unit 7 right now. So this is on transformations. So there are 3 types of transformations, and we're going to practice all 3 within this activity. And so, as I mentioned earlier in the webinar, we have a how to submit a Dropbox activity in this resource box. And then, as I mentioned, Danny is the one who created all of these and awesome links to resources, has created some tutorials in a Google Doc on how to use GeoGebra. So if we take a look at one of these, step-by-step on how to do certain things. So for example, this one is on translating a vector, okay? So what I want you to notice is that with this GeoGebra resource, it is not telling the student how to do this activity. It is showing them how to do things that they will need to complete the activity. So they will need to know how to translate in GeoGebra. They will need to know how to use reflections in GeoGebra and rotations and taking measures. So she has separated them by tutorial, and the students should be able to complete the unit activity by putting all of these together. For the teachers, she has embedded a step-by-step tool on how to complete these. So where's Teacher 1 in Unit 7. Let's see. Oh, that one's in Unit 8 because for Unit 7, it is more of a straightforward how to do it. All right, so let's go ahead and go into GeoGebra. So I'm not going to follow these directions, but I am going to go into GeoGebra. So let's go ahead and open that. Let's close everything else. And so the first thing I do is I'm going to click on Start Graphing. And then notice here I have an option for algebra. So I can enter some equations and it would graph it here. And I can do other types of things here. So if you've ever used Desmos, this would be similar to Desmos here. The cool part about GeoGebra is it has some other functions that we will use here. And then we also have a table. So we're going to stick mainly here to the geometry tools. Okay, so let's go ahead and read what the task is for Unit 7. So Unit 7 is asking the students to draw a triangle of your choosing, then perform the transformations listed below. You're going to show the pre-image and all 3 images on the same graph below. Now, if this is too much for your students, they can by all means do the 3 different activities on 3 different windows. So they don't have to do all of them on the same window. If it's too confusing for the teacher or the student, they don't have to do it on the same graph paper. Okay, so the first one is to translate triangle ABC by moving it 5 units to the right and 2 units up. And then label the image triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. Okay, so this is the original image, which we call pre-image. And then the translated or transformed image is this new image, triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. So let's go ahead and try that. So in order to create an image such as a triangle, I need the polygon tool, which I don't see here. So I will click on more, and more tools will come up. So I will look for polygons. There it is. When I click on polygon, or anytime I click on any one of these items, it tells me how to use that item. So for example, when I click on polygon, it says select all vertices, then first vertex again. So what does that mean? I want to create a triangle. A triangle has 3 points. So I'm going to use these vertices here, A, B, C, and then I need to close my figure, so I go back to my original vertex, or vertex, sorry, A, B, and C, okay? So we know in geometry, we label our points with capital letters and our sides with lowercase letters. So then remember, the directions are to move it 5 units to the right and 2 units up. In order to do that, I will then click on vector. And what this vector does is it tells the figure how to move. So it's kind of like a rule or a direction, a set of directions. So I click on vector, select starting point, then end point. So I'll start at the origin 0, 0, and then the directions were to move 5 units to the right and 2 units up. So this is where I will click for my second point. This line, this vector, will now tell any figure here how to move, in which direction, and how many spots. So since I want to move this figure, I want to translate it, I will now then go to my transformation tools, and I have reflect about a line, reflect about a point, and there I have translate by vector. So this is the one I will use to translate this figure. So I will click on the figure and then on the line, and it has translated my figure. Now, anytime you want to move your graph paper, go back to the cursor, the move tool. Otherwise, you will recreate anything that you previously clicked on. So now I can move drag my graph paper down, and notice here it is. I have moved 5 units to the right and 2 units up for every single point on my triangle. So this is something the students can print out by going here to the hamburger or the 3 lines on the left, print preview, scale, sure. And notice that I can print this to submit to teacher. So this is part of the unit activity. Are there any questions up to now?
I have a question, if you can hear me.
Yes, I can hear you.
So you partially answered my question about being able to print, but a lot of my students are incapable of printing from their home or from the Chromebook. Are they able to save these images or transfer the image digitally to us?
Yes, so notice here, good question, thank you. I am not signed in. However, you don't need to be, because when I click save, it will ask me, oh, sorry, no. When I click share, I guess you do have to sign in, sorry, to Google a GeoGebra account, or continue without signing in now. There you go.
So I'm not sure, but when you do the printing, can't you just print it as a PDF and just email
You
that?
can print it as a PDF as well. I don't know if the students would have that capability within their computer.
Most of them should. So can you try
And
printing?
they can screenshot. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. They can screenshot. Snipping
Right.
tool.
I think most computers, if you print, that's
Yes.
not to save as a PDF. So if that answers your
Thank
question.
you. Yeah, because if you snip it, then you can save this anywhere you want. Does that answer your question? I'm sorry. I know we went different things right now.
No, yes, it does. It gives me a couple of
Okay.
different options to work with.
Options. Awesome. Okay. Okay, so that is the first task, part of the first task. And then the second one asked me to reflect. So I am going to open a new one because I don't want to do it on the same one. So as a student, maybe that'll confuse me. So when I clicked on new in the main menu, it asked me if I wanted to save it. And I actually can save it here. I'm gonna save it as private. And I will click save. I can title it if I want. This is my translation, whoops. And it will be available here. I didn't get to finish the title, but it's available here, even though I'm not signed in. Okay, so I'll go back to my math tools, my geometry tools. And now I need to create a reflection. So using the same triangle, ABC. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on my polygon triangle. And A, B, C, back to the same vertex. And now I'm going to reflect across line y equals -x. So for this, you have different options. I'm going to go ahead and input it into here. Now notice everything that I've been doing in the geometry tool section has a line within the input calculator section. That's pretty awesome because then you can also deselect and it will hide something that you don't want to show. So notice that. Okay, so I'm going to input y equals -x, just like that, and there's the line. That's the line I'm going to reflect across. Now, if I want to label it, I can click on these three dots where I input my function and click on settings. And here I can show just the name or the name and the value. And I clicked on name and value so that I can see my equation or function written on my graph paper. So now I'm going to go back to my geometry tools. I'm going to click on move so that I can move this slightly down and you can see that there. Any questions so far? So I created an image, a polygon, and then I created a line and I labeled it so far. Okay, great. So now I'm going to go ahead and reflect it across this line. So I'm going to go down to my transformation tools and I see reflect about a line. And remember, anytime you click on any one of these tools, it tells you how to use it. So I'm going to select my object and then the line, and there it is. There's my reflection. Okay, now the directions were to label it A'1 sub 1, B' sub 1, and C' sub 1. So we can go back here to my calculator and I can actually directly change those names right here. So A', and then we have a little keyboard here. I will use within the function tool, there's a sub, and that's where I will enter my 1. Where'd it go? 1. Oh. 1 for some reason. 1. There we go. Okay. And it has changed it. Should have changed it. Did it not? It did not. Sorry, guys, it was working for me yesterday. And of course, today during the webinar, it decides it's not going to work. There it goes. Okay. Then for B prime sub 1, same thing. I will click right next to the prime. Using my keyboard, I'm going to go ahead and click on f of x, sub, enter the 1, and enter. And there it is. It changed it. The label has been changed. C prime, same thing. I want to change it to sub 1. 1, enter, and it has been changed. Any questions on changing the label? So I'm doing that in the calculator input section. Okay, and then the third part of that first task is rotate. So once again, I can either use this same graph paper or just create a new one. I'm just gonna go ahead and create a new one. I will call this one reflection. And again, I'm not saving it in any type of account that I'm logged into, but it still saves it. So now for the third part, I need to rotate counterclockwise about the origin by 270 degrees. And then once again, I will label this image A prime sub 2, B prime sub 2, C prime sub 2. Okay, so images or geometry tool, polygon, triangle, and it doesn't matter where on the graph paper, as long as you put something down there. Okay, so there's triangle ABC once more. And I'm going to rotate counterclockwise about the origin. So that means I'm rotating my figure about the origin here. So I need to place a point there. So here is my point. And then I'm rotating this figure counterclockwise 270 degrees about that point. So then I go down to transformations. There is rotate around a point. So I'm going to select the object, the point, and then this window pops up, which is nice because this is where I enter my desired degree. And then I can either select counterclockwise or clockwise. The directions were to do it counterclockwise. Click OK. I'm going to go back to my cursor, and there you can see both images. And then again, if I want to go back and label it, go into your calculator input section. Here's the rotated image. So A prime sub 2. Enter. B prime sub 2. Enter. C prime sub 2. Enter. And there we have it. Any questions on this last part of the task or any of the other two parts? Okay, we are running short on time, you guys. The next part of this unit activity would be then to take some measurements. So I'm going to show you quickly how to do that. So I'm going to go back to my first image that I had, which was my translation. So let's edit that. Oh. Okay, so here's my first part of the task that I created. Here it is. Now to measure an angle, you will use the measure angle tool. And one important feature to keep in mind is that you need to go clockwise with this. So if I click on segment AB first and then AC, it's going to actually give me this external angle measure, which is not what I want. So in order to get this internal angle measure, I need to go in clockwise order. So I will click first on segment AC and then segment AB. And there we have our angle measure. Now this is one too many numbers. So how do we fix that? We go up here to our settings. We click on settings. And here, the gear. Here, rounding to 13 decimal places is the default. That's crazy. Let's do 1. And there it is. And that has changed it for all of my measurements now. My angle measurements at least. Okay, so once again, if I want this interior angle here, I'm gonna go clockwise. So segment AB first, then segment BC, there it is. And then my final angle, segment BC, and then segment AC, and there it is. And that's where I would enter my measurements. And I believe this was to show that regardless of the transformation, translation, rotation, or reflection, you maintain the same angle measure and side measure. So to do a side measure, distance or length, I click on the segment and it gives me the measure of each side. Any questions on measuring angles or sides? Or changing the preferences? This is also being recorded and will be available in the teacher resources website. Awesome. Okay, we have a very quick Q&A session. So go.
I just had a quick question for integrated math series. Is it like an overarching, like a scope or, sequence?
Yeah.
Just from the Allen Core Math Standards.
I can barely hear you. I'm sorry. Can you speak up just a little bit?
Just want to get a quick overview of the integrated math sequencing.
Okay.
How the courses, if you kind of follow some kind of a mapping kind of thing or whatever, in terms of how the units were laid out. So you can just kind of get a make a little sense that when we're switching from traditional to integrated, to kind of explain, how integrated one focuses on this or that. Does that make sense? Do you guys have some kind of a big picture thing? Because usually the integrated math series, they kind of scaffold from, integrated math 1 to math 2 to math 3. Okay, so in the first year they cover these parts of whatever topic, and the second year they expand on the second one or third one.
Yeah, so in the course overview, I don't know if you remember, here, I can go back to it. When I was showing my resources, as a matter of fact, my resource folder here, where is it? So here, and then we went to Skyrocket, and then we clicked on teacher resources and my supplemental resources. I showed you a course overview, which comes directly from the syllabus in integrated,
This is for that one semester, but I'm saying, is there like an overarching that ties all 3 levels together, or you have?
I can, you know what, I can look into that for you. But it's available within Edmentum. You can definitely navigate Edmentum and play with it a little to find out some more of the overarching themes that are, I'm not sure that they're there, to be quite honest, though.
Only because with the traditional Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, we can kind of focus on what each level is, right? But with the integrated, because it's a blending of all 3 in a sense, with statistics and trigonometry.
Yeah, Tim, let me, I think you and I should talk separately outside of this, because I don't think I'm quite understanding your question, and we're literally down to 1 minute.
No worries, no worries.
Have a different question? Sorry, Tim. I feel like yours would require a little more time than a minute, and I want to give you that time.
No problem, thanks.
Is there anyone else that has a separate question?
Nope.
No questions? None? I did an excellent job. Thank you. It was my first webinar, so I guess I'm a little excited. Okay, well, if you guys have any questions, please shoot us an email or call me. I don't know. We'll be available for questioning throughout this semester. We are releasing a few more Edmentum courses, and with that will come more webinars. So you will receive those invitations and expect to see me again virtually. Thank you everyone for being here. This is again being recorded. It will be available soon. You will get an email with links and a survey. So please don't forget to do that survey. Thank you so much for being here, you guys.
Thanks, Hazel.
Friday and a good weekend.
You too.
Bye.
All right, so Hazel, I gave you my
Bye.
email if you want to respond back later when you get a chance. No rush, okay?
Okay, thank you so much, Tim. I really appreciate that.
Bye.
Bye.